Hello and welcome to the March installment of Community Focus, presented by the Friends of MCTV. I'm your host, John McPeak. Every month, the program features news about upcoming activities in the greater Midland area. This month, our guests include folks from the Toni and Trish House, Midland County Continuum of Care, the Chippewa Nature Center, and the Folk Music Society of Midland. Joining us today to lead off our program are John McKelvey, the Executive Director and Founder of the Toni and Trish House, and Larry Butcher, a volunteer caregiver there. Welcome to Community Focus.
Thanks, John.
John, what is the Toni and Trish House? What's your mission?
Well, our mission is to provide dignity, comfort, and peace to people at the end of their life. And all our guests, we're a guest house, and all our guests are under hospice agency care, who provides the medical needs of these people. And then our volunteers and small staff provides the family-like care.
So the guests are, and you have how many guests?
We have 3 bedrooms, so it's very intimate and very homey.
And it sounds like volunteer help is a very big portion of what you're able to provide.
It is, and hospice is best served in one's own home. Studies have shown that 80% of people would prefer to die at home instead of hospitals and institutions, long-term care facilities. So we provide that niche for people who can't stay at home, and ours is the second best place to go.
Well, what's the motivation for a person to volunteer at the Toni and Trish House?
I think it's part of one's spiritual path to provide selfless service. And our volunteers frequently say they get a lot more than they give. And it gives you a chance to rest your mind and provide care and compassion in such a way you can prioritize your life. You know more what's important in life than superficial things. It lets you go deeper into what it means to be a human.
Can you describe a typical volunteer, John?
No. It's as if trying to describe a typical American. We're all pretty unique, and we all do have various motivations to come there. Our volunteers, some of them are school teachers, some of them are retired scientists, some are retired nurses or active nurses. They may or may not have a medical background. Professors from local colleges volunteer, and it's an amazing mixed bag of people who volunteer.
Well, Larry, what is your motivation, or what was your motivation to initially volunteer at Toni and Trish House, and what has that experience been like for you?
Well, in 2001, my mother was diagnosed with gastrointestinal cancer, and in a 10-day period from the time she left the hospital, 5 days after the operation, to coming home to the family farm, hospice at the family farm made it possible for her to die in the living room where we had all our Christmases and die among people who loved her. And so I was an educator for 42 years, taught at Delta College for 39 years, painter, artist. And I had John as a student, and I come to know a more personal way about hospice through John. And I decided I was going to start volunteering about 3 years ago. And I've had the honor to be with at least 60 of the 300 we've served when they were either near death or actually when they are taking their last breath. And it's a powerful moment. I often tell friends that I do this. I have no medical background at all. Former Boy Scout, but that would be it. But that I leave my ego at the door and I'm there to serve. And in any one day, I may cook breakfast. I check in to see what meds they have to administer. I may clean them up. I may change their bedding while they're in bed. I've been there to pray over them as they took their last breath, and I've been there when they zipped the bag up and put them in the funeral hearse to take them away. And all of that could happen in a 5-hour shift. Other days are very quiet.
So to start with, you had some training for the things that you would be experiencing as a volunteer?
Yeah. It was very interesting, 2-day training. And there's some exercises that we do to help us understand what our guests are going through and how much is taken away from them. So that you get a sense when you're going in there that these people are there, they know why they're there. But that you're bringing your compassion to them, not your sympathy, I feel for you, or your empathy, I know how you feel. But you're bringing your passion and compassion to their suffering. And you're there to be attentive. Many times I just listen. Other times I just sit with them. Other times there's a lot of rigor going on depending on how anxiety-ridden the guest may be. But in most cases, they feel comfortable in their guest room. And they decorate their guest room with their pictures, and had a Harley guy there that had his Harley signs up. And so there's a place in there where it's more like home, which is what my mother wanted, was to die at home. And as John said, it's the closest thing to dying at home.
Well, can you give us a couple of examples of interactions that you've had with guests and their families there at the Toni and Trish House?
Taking care of one lady, and her children turned to George Schaller and I and said, "Why do you do this?" And off the top of my head, I said, "To pay it forward, hoping that somebody may be there to comfort me at my last days and to close my eyes." I remember sitting with an Alzheimer's patient who had been non-responsive to most people, and I was sitting there, and she woke up and looked at me, and she says, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And I said, "I'm just here to help." She says, "That's nice." Back to sleep. I went out in the kitchen and told him what happened. She says, "Well, she hadn't talked to anybody in weeks." That was an amazing moment. Other times I feel like I'm taking care of my dad and my mother. People who are from the farm and from agriculture, which is where I was raised. People who led a hard life, who come with a lot of humility to that moment, and their families really appreciate what we do.
Well, John, does Toni and Trish House need more volunteers?
Yes, we do, and that's why we're on the show. April 23rd, a Thursday evening, we'll have a training, and also on Saturday it'll be all day, 9 to 3. We have about 70 volunteers, and we need about 80 to 85. Right now we're low on the weekends and some of the weeknights. So it would be very helpful if we had a few more volunteers.
And prospective volunteers can contact you how? Email, website?
Yeah, email. We have a good website that gives a good description. It's Toni with an I, toniandtrishhouse.org. Just Google that. And there on the left side is a thing for volunteers, and you can see what you're getting into. We do the training, then we before the training, though, we like people to come in for about 3 hours and hear a little bit about the mission, meet the other volunteers, meet our guests, maybe help with a meal, and then they can kind of get it helps the training so they know what they're getting into. And then we have them orient for 3 shifts where they go through some checklists, and then we interview again and say, "Now, how'd this go? Did you feel you've had enough training? Or you want to back out?" We rarely have people back out. Sometimes I feel like God's having us train people for other things, and they have to go take care of a loved one and use that training somewhere else.
Well, John and Larry, thank you for appearing on Community Focus and educating us about the Toni and Trish House and the need for volunteers.